Hello again. My name is Luis Huerta. I am a third year student at WSUV. I am majoring in mechanical engineering. And I've been an intern with Latino Leadership Northwest for about um, 2 years. And for this, we are conducting interviews with teachers, people who we believe who are leaders in the community, who we admire, who we want to get to know more about. Alma, if you could introduce yourself.
Yes. So again, my name is Alma. She, her, ella pronouns. I'm in my third year, hoping to get my bachelor's in biology. My plan is to work in the healthcare field. And I've been an intern with LNW for 2, 3 years, I think we're going on. So yeah, I really like advocating for my community, and so I'm proud to be part of this organization.
Well, I am Thabiti Lewis. I am a professor of English at WSU, Vancouver, and I have been here for 15 years. I can't believe how fast the time has gone. And I am currently the Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. And I have been in that capacity since 2019. So again, we'll be running into the fourth year of this, and unfortunately, and I guess fortunately, I have been able to be in this position during a terrible time of the pandemic, and using that moment to, which I guess I'll perhaps talk about later, but really leaning into what does it mean to be student ready, and how do we proactively prepare for lifting inequities and helping make sure students can do well. And so we really tried to be proactive in those regarding that, and I'm happy I was able to be part of it. So, and I'm just honored to be asked to be interviewed here today by you. If I'm looking at your criteria is leaders and people being admired, it's an honor to be selected as one of those people that you deem worthy of sharing some of
Yeah.
what they think they know with you all.
Yeah. No. Awesome. And yeah. I mean, it's our third time speaking. We had previously met for our first time during the scholarship awards dinner. Um,
Mhm.
and just the way you talked to us, hope that just the way you brought all of us together, even bringing people from another table just to try to connect. I felt like that was really inspiring, and I had never really gotten that from a teacher at WSUV yet. So when you reached out and told us that we could go talk to you, and when we were and at LNW, when we were brought this opportunity to interview people, you were the first name that came into my head.
Oh,
So thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. It's really an honor to have you here. Um, Without further ado, I mean, I want to start with the first question.
okay.
What led you to choose your profession?
Yeah, I think my profession chose me. I don't know if I chose it. I was very much positively impacted by some professors when I was an undergraduate student. And I really liked how just how smart they were and their passion for English. Of course, as an undergraduate, I double majored in English and in history, and my
Yeah.
major mentors were in both of those areas, ironically. And so, yeah, it wasn't intentional. It was kind of accidental. I went on to do a graduate degree, and then I stopped out for a while and just, I'm interested in ideas, and 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 so I have always been involved in groups where I'd be, when I finished, I had a master's degree. I worked at a publishing company that was the oldest and still operating African American publishing company in the world. and that was Thorough Press in Chicago, and so it was great opportunity to meet writers and interact with other intellectuals. And then when I left that, I was adjuncting and teaching. And then I just realized and said, hey, I have a master's degree. I should just get a doctorate or I'll be doing this forever. But, the other side is I enjoyed just, writing and reading books. And I used to write a column. And I was just thinking to myself that, this is, and don't tell anyone that, I'm able to do what I was doing, would have done for free, what I was doing for free, which is getting paid to read and think and write and share my ideas with other people and make an impact on the world. Because I do believe that ideas run the world, and to teach people how to think critically and to share ideas, for me, is really important. So I like the platform of academia, but I kind of stumbled into it.
I mean, on that same note, consequently, what led you to choose WSUV?
Yeah. My first job, I was living with my family in Chicago, and I'd done my doctorate in St. Louis. And I had quite a few interviews for jobs. And the first job that I ended up taking when I finished was at a liberal arts college up in Salem here in Oregon. And I really came out here just to practice for my other interviews. I was like, I've never been to Oregon. I'll come out. And they wouldn't say no to anything, and I came back and told my wife, hey, looks like we're going to be moving to Oregon. So fast forward, out in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm at a liberal arts college, and I'm realizing that I'm either going to be in a liberal arts college forever, and I want to have Research One aspirations. They call it R1. And so when I saw the advertisement for the job here, you ever see something and oh, that's my job. And I saw it, and I said to myself, okay, they looking for me. And so in 2008, I think it was, or something like that, or 2007, I interviewed and then, took the job here, and then went on and got tenured as associate, and then moved on to full. And once I did that, and while I was doing that, I always found the administrative components really interesting. Like how are we deciding these policies? Who's deciding? Does that really work? Who does that work for? And so which is probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now. It's an opportunity. I think even being a professor to really have an impact on people, but here in this capacity in academic affairs, to really have an impact on the pedagogy of our students. How we advise them, how we have an impact on how we orient them as they come, impacting what kind of academic resources are available and how we make them available, impact the way in which people are thinking about the cultural wealth that students bring to the table from different ethnic and social backgrounds that, the instructors have. People need to expand their idea of what's valuable, knowledge and skills. And so being able to be in a position to really lean into and be able to articulate those things, and then really insist, if not demand, that we have to bring that to the table, right? So
and so then throughout the years, I mean, what has been your favorite thing about WSUV? You can say more than one. You can say more than one.
Yeah. So it's funny. It kind of changed in different ways. So when before I took a job as a like a regular appointment, I used to be an adjunct for community college, liberal arts college, but the community college was really interesting because I met my best students there because I had a number of older students. I'm talking about people in their I mean, I was in my 20s, people in their 30s, 40s,
Yeah.
they were older than me, and they were really serious about being back in school and education. And
Hmm.
I really liked that. And so, but I also really loved at when I was teaching in liberal arts college, the 18, 19-year-olds. And I think
Yeah.
WSU gives a nice balance of each. So I like that part here of being here. I also like that, a number of the students are like me. I'm first generation um, college graduate. My paternal grandparents, neither of them went to high school,
Yeah.
and they had like a dry cleaners and a restaurant, and my mother just has a GED. My father has a high school diploma, and so who would think that a kid from that background would get would double major, get two undergraduate degrees, a master's degree, and a PhD. You know, and
Right.
so, education changed my life. I mean, literally changed my life and aspects of my family. And so I like to be in a position to share that story, but also, encourage others, particularly students of color. There's a huge gap in the number of, we understand that the social inequities and discrimination. And so, when people go, oh, more people getting an undergraduate degree, and I say, yeah, but not, but those numbers pale in comparison to people of color. And so, you want to lean into and say, no, let's encourage more and not just bring them into the space. But I understand you feel isolated because people aren't really warmly engaging you and seeing your humanity. And so being in a position to literally make that statement and say, listen, we got to talk about how we're going to do that. As the advisors are the first contact, they have to have that cultural competency. The instructors, how we understand knowledge. What do we understand? It's not just the way you were taught based on you have to understand, and teaching is really hard too, right? Because you have to keep all those things in mind. And so I like that part of being here, because I think that you know it is it's a lot of my own experience. And I like that. I like in general. My wife once told me that I never wanted to leave college, and I thought that was funny.
Hmm.
And then I thought about it, and I said, you know what, you're right. I remember leaving St. Louis and going. I went to University of Rochester and being on that campus, and it was back then when you had still but their funders, their main contributors were. I don't know how old you all are, but I know this Kodak, Xerox, right? So those are big,
Hmm.
film and photocopying. Those are big corporations, and they funnel money into that place. And so all of the resources that we had, it changed. It was a good confirmation for me that it's just about an opportunity, the resources. It's not just about that, but then of course, people have to have some sense of efficacy towards the students that they're interacting with. And
Yeah.
so, but just being able to be in that space can change your life. And so I'll go back and say, I um, I like that in general, and specifically, I like that opportunity here, and and I like the mixture of the kind of students that we have. I've learned a
Hmm.
lot here because a lot of the students are white as well, and they come from different social economic backgrounds. And so
Yeah.
while I understand, oppression and white supremacy and institutionalized racism, I also it's an opportunity for me. You know what I like being here? Every class I end up getting my working class students, my white students, to understand that they cannot be a proponent or they shouldn't of uh, supporting institutionalized racism and white supremacy, because it's about these class dynamics. And I'm always like, so we all got to come together so
Yeah.
everybody can get a piece of the pie. So
Yeah.
kind of socialist rhetoric, but it's really true, right? If 1% controls over 90% of the resources and wealth, that should have us all enraged. I don't care who you are. And
Yeah.
and we can have a better society if we actually get more people with a chance, because we actually get the best people.
But continuing on that note, so in the future, what are some things you believe should change to or improve to better support students of color?
Yeah, so I sort of alluded to it. I think we are trying to do it here. We are trying to make sure that we are creating courses and conversation and an attitude around the fact that it's not a monochromatic world or campus, not just one cultural view and perspective. And I mean,
Yeah.
everybody got to give up something. And so, so I think look at some of the changes that we're making. For example, just the way in which the University 104, 204, the first year curriculum really leans into the fact that, the vast majority of students graduating from high school don't have conversations about race, identity, and culture. So a lot of the people teaching are afraid to have those conversations. So we've done the kind of workshop and training and will continue to. And then the students, and when we look at them having these conversations and having these moments of understanding of themselves or beginning that, it clears the way for them having the kind of knowledge to push the envelope and even challenge their instructors in their other classes, but also have healthier interactions with their peers. I'm talking about of all different backgrounds, and leaning into and embracing their cultural wealth. I mean, we always talk about things like, you imagine someone's parents can't read and the kid is the person doing the translating, or reading and taking care of different things, or even just language translation. I mean, that's enormous leadership and communication skills that, I don't know if the average kid is able to have that kind of maturity and can
Yeah.
bring that to the table, right? And so, these are all the things, and so it makes us think about, okay, let's think about the diversity of the assessments that we bring to the table for our students. Well, it ain't just what you encountered when you were in school, but what do we need to do in this space? So I think we're trying to do it. We're trying to make the advisors, the instructors embrace students' cultural wealth. I think that, what do we do to improve and better support? I think that I think we're kind of doing it. We have to continue. People can't be afraid to have these conversations. People can't be afraid to be wrong. People can't. I'm tired. We got to get people out of this. I'm good. I'm goodish. Okay. I may say something that may be offensive or may hurt someone's feelings, and it has to be brought to my attention. And then I have to move forward. I can't go, oh, but I'm a good person. Okay, well then, if you're a good person, then you're willing to listen to this and try and grow and be better. But what we have to do though is make sure that we can't have people here working with the students who are obtuse regarding cultural wealth and cultural and racial competency. We cannot have that. We
Yeah.
cannot put the have people in the space who will, stop them as they're taking off, And so, and we
Mhm.
have to make the students strong enough to be able to call them on it, to say, hey, Dr.
Mhm.
Lewis, this was messed up. Or I had to check them, and I had to call them in, not just call them out, but call them in, and knowing how to do that, right?
Right.
And empower the students to be. I want the students to be. I wrote a book called Ballers of the New School. I want the
Mhm.
students to have a baller mentality, to have a like a shot caller mentality. I want our students to you ask what can we do to improve and better support BIPOC students. I want them to have a sense of agency and feel like they to take on, like we teach design thinking in one of the other university, the second semester of the University 104, I mean, not 104, but 204. And I want them to have a design thinking mentality, which is entrepreneurial, which is unafraid to take chances, not being, the fact that you're here, there's a fearlessness, but there's still fear, right? And so we want you to be, to be willing to say, okay, let's try this, and willing to have a prototype mindset. Let's experiment with some stuff, knowing that we're going to get to the right solution eventually, and
Hmm.
and not pressure ourselves to. And I'm guilty of this. I mean, I encounter this as well, even as a leader, as a person of color. I'm like, I want to make sure it's right. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm like anybody else. I'm human. I'm gonna give it a shot. And if it's not right, tell me where we need to alter it, and let's make that tweak, and we move forward. And I'm gonna let people know that I'm gonna be allowed the same space and agency as everybody else here, because I've not met anyone here that's perfect. And
Yeah.
so, but getting the students also, empowering them to take that on is important with the kind of work we do with them. So I like we have the base
Hmm.
academies, and that's directed towards staff and faculty. But we need some. For one of the things I found is that more the students need the language to arm themselves to help make a difference as well.
Hmm.
And so I'd like, especially for the Black and Pacific and Asian. I'd like those students of color. I'd love for there to be like just a little like think tank where people are cultivating ideas and um, getting the language and tools to be able to advocate for themselves and others and push the campus forward. So
Yeah.
when I was in college, we used to have a coffee house, and
Hmm.
it was just every Friday. We might be reading Frantz Fanon, we might be reading, different work, not to do with our homework, and just having conversations around this stuff. And
Right.
we would find ourselves using it in our classes because we were kind of developing another lens, another angle, you know.
Right.
So yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that, I love how you mentioned that it's not just that the students need to learn these things, but that the faculty also has to like arm themselves with these tools and has to like know how to use them. Because at the end of the day, I guess we're all students, we're all learning from each other. And on that note, I want to ask you, what is the best part about teaching for
Mm,
you? You know?
yeah. 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 You know, for me, the best part is there are multiple best parts. First part is I love being able to go into a space and share ideas and have dialogue.
Hmm.
And I love it when the students are challenging me and also engaging that, right? Because we live in a world where it's like, okay, fill me, give me some information, I'll give it back, or just tell me what you want me to know. What am I supposed to? And so that drives me crazy. But
Yeah.
the best part for me is when it clicks for a student. Makes me cry.
Hmm.
I'm so happy. I mean, literally, when it
Hmm.
clicks, when I see it click for a student, and when they come back and say, I get it.
Right.
I
Right.
get what you were, now
Yeah.
often people, they're like, oh, this guy's so hard. He wants this, this, that. And then when they come back and they say,
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like you when I was taking your class, but I want
Yeah.
to thank you. I get it now. I was using this in my work, and your class made all these other ones easier because when I was, so that part is that's enough. Just one will carry me for a couple of mini semesters. Just
Yeah.
hearing that, right? One.
Yeah.
And I know that's such a low whatever, but I just I love the sharing of ideas, and so
Yeah.
yeah, that's the best part, and seeing people just take off and uh, have that kind of growth and go forward is the best part. I've had a couple of
Yeah.
students who've gone on to get doctorates and MD, and you're like, wow, okay, that's
Yeah.
great. I feel like what, I'm part of that.
Hmm.
Part of that. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the other good part is just that they like that we had such a good connection that they just say, "Hey, I'm just coming. I just wanted to come back and say what's up. How you
Yeah.
doing?" Whoa, wow, So,
Yeah.
can I
Right.
say something? You made me think of something, Luis.
Hmm.
You said, "What would I like?" No, maybe it was you, Alma. What would I like to change to improve to better support BIPOC students?
Hmm.
I would also like the students to recognize, and I don't know how, this platform can help convey that to them, but
Hmm.
I want the students to recognize the importance of when they come into this college space, of building relationships. You aren't just coming here. It's not transactional. You're not just coming here going into the classes and that's it. But really develop the relationships with your with the instructors, demanding some connection and relationship, because when you graduate, those relationships and connections are going to be so key to your success early
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
Who's writing a recommendation for you, or just I want to ask your advice about the field or what have you. So it's good with your advisor, but also
Yeah.
with the instructors in your field. Like I heard you say engineering, and I heard you say biology. Can you name 3 biology professors whom you could say, yeah, I have a pretty good working relationship with? And if you don't, make as a goal over the next spring that you just cultivate that. It's literally
Right.
not mean looking on the list or looking at classes you have taken or will take, and just getting to know them and sharing what your aspirations are, et cetera. Same thing for engineering, because I think that will help improve and support. So I want students to know that office hours, and I'm going to be conveying this information this year even harder. But it's not the professor's office hours; it's the student's office hours, and I think that doesn't translate. Like, no, these are your office hours. This is the student's office hours. I'm gonna put that in the FYI. Like, no, these are your hours. Like these, I am saying I'm not doing anything on these days except wait to hear from you. This is your time. And if you need another time, then you let me know. And I think we have to keep saying that to students over and over. And so I think that will also
Yeah.
help improve their experience here, because the truth is, particularly for BIPOC students, that makes them human to the people that to the instructors that they're interacting with. I'm not saying they don't that they're not being seen as such, but it forces
Hmm.
that human, like you gotta see my humanity, people. I mean, look, even I know I encounter it. I'm gonna tell you, as a administrative column, I'm a Black male, and I'm reconstructed. So I'm either gonna be cocky or mean, even though I'm
Hmm.
always smiling and friendly, but mean because I'm not trying to be accommodating or make people feel comfortable. And that's a problem for them. But, what does that mean, right? And so what is a student encountering, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm not saying I've encountered it across the board, but I've encountered it, right? And so, but what's the language we learn how to use to talk about that, right? So I usually talk about, and of course that angers people because I shut down one of their pathways, like, oh, you're gonna see me as this, and this, and that's not like, huh? And still they want to do it, right? So as a student, being able to, very respectfully, um, have the tools and the language to ensure that you're being dealt with humanity, with a sense of belonging and love. And some people may be unconscious of the fact that they're not doing it. Some are conscious of the fact that they aren't doing it. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, having the tools to even say, not sure where you at on this, but it's happening. So you tell me, is it conscious or unconscious? And so that's, I've talked to young people like, oh, that's great. This is what we want to know. So, I think maybe we need to have more sessions like that with students of color. But my only problem, I'm gonna be honest, is you're both on this campus, right? I know, on the Vancouver campus. My only
Yeah.
problem is, and I know we're not residential, but it's a two-way street, right? So when we offer this stuff, you got to come. And we don't often get the students showing up. So to something like this, right? If I said, okay, let's do this session. Let's do some sessions like this. We said, okay, Louise, Alma, we're going to organize this and we're going to talk, you know what I'm saying? And how many students do we get to come? How many will come? And they may not feel like that's important, or they may feel like, I got a lot going on, and I get all that. But, these are the kind of things for that are essential for guaranteeing, a better situation. So if we're trying to get them woke, then you got to be, it's a two-way street. Like, what's going to help keep triggering the level of what that woke looks like?
This is a great advice for incoming freshmen. I, for example, struggled with the office hour part as well, but I know it'd be great advice for, first year students, and I'm working on it. But, along with that, the following question is, what advice would you give the students, right? The first year students, the first generation students, the people of, the students of color, what would you give them coming into WSUV or any other campus?
Yeah. Use all the resources. Learn the resources. Be on campus regularly to develop a routine and a schedule. Communicate to your family what's going on in the space. And one of the things I want to do is have some sessions where we're helping the students communicate to their families what's happening. I'm saying that only because as a first generation student, if I were living at home in St. Louis, going to St. Louis University, which is 2 miles from where I grew up, where my parents' house, my mother's house is now. By the end of my first year, if I was just going home, going to school, coming home each day, I think after a while, my mother would have said, so you don't do nothing here but sleep, and you eat, and you come in, and instead of saying, okay, you do that, we got you covered, we're helping save you money, and when you graduate, you're either going to be of assistance to us because we don't have to worry about you coming back and living here and needing this kind of support, and you might be able to help out in some ways, right? And seeing that kind of bigger picture. And I think, helping the families of those first-gen students know better, but also making sure the students come to campus. That's why we have Friday, first year, the courses on Friday, to say, okay, we want you here one more day. I want you making community, feeling a sense of belonging. You need to meet with your advisor. You can meet with your advisor. You have a student group and study today. It's not the weekend Friday. We want you here. What's your plan for the weekend? What's your study plan? And so that's all those things, like just get it under your belt. And I'm gonna be even more honest with you. I think it was I just stayed above academic probation my first year, just above it. And I pledged a fraternity in the second semester of my first year. All terrible things, should not do. And then the sophomore year, I was on academic probation because I went under a 2.0. Can you believe that? And that changed my life because I knew at this school, this is a coveted spot. This is a top 20 college. And so I really had to lean in. But if I had really been cultivating the kind of, you got to sit down for these hours and really do this work, it would have helped me out a lot. So I think that for those first gen students, use the resources, come to campus, take the classes that are set up to ease you into it. Don't take these crazy schedules, which ease into it. Do well, pad, and get the rhythms. You know what I'm saying? And that's the advice. Explain to your family, or even say, "Hey, Dr. Lewis, come. Maybe I need to do it. Like have a group. Hey, we're happy to help you explain to your family what's going on." And the this is the support I need. You know what I'm saying? When I
Yeah.
come home, have a plate of food for me, and you know, can there be a quiet place for me to finish studying, or no, when I come home late, it's because I'm in here doing my thing. You know what I'm saying? And you know, and the first year students, I would say, if you can avoid it, don't work if you can. You know, just get
Hmm.
through, just so you can, you know, get the rhythms of what. Okay, this how many hours I take. You know, to work on A, B, and C. You know, and
Hmm.
so take a reasonable course load, even if you're going to major in biology or engineering. Let's just ease into this. Let me, you know, let me get my rhythms here. This is different. This is not high school. And who are
Yeah.
all the people? And what's the and you know, let me make friends. We even put the students in. If you're in science, we put you in that cohort of the University 104s so that you can meet other people. Like, oh, you in science too? Just like you met the young lady who was in engineering. That was, we
Yeah.
didn't try to do that, but can you imagine that, right? And
Yeah.
so you're like, oh, and now you got a study group, or you at least have the opportunity to meet people who are doing the same kind of stuff to
Hmm.
fast track, you know. So it's about developing relationships and really checking your, you know, being honest with yourself and trying to figure out what works. Yeah. And don't take a big bite. Don't take a huge bite.
Yeah.
That's, and that's back to the advisor's cultural competency too, and saying, okay, um, what high school did this student go to? Not that it's inferior students, et cetera. It's all about resources, right? So my kids went to private high school. I went to a public high school. When I got to college, people had taken IB or AP, this and that. I didn't even know what AP was or IB. Okay, I'm at the
Hmm.
University of Rochester, and then I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna take a class in psychology or economics, and they're like, oh yeah, I took that in my senior year AP economics and AP, and I'm like, oh my god, so you're behind. It's unequal, right? It's
Yeah.
unequal. And so, you know, when I was a kid, we played sports. We didn't have the same facilities as other kids we played against. And when we played in their facilities, we destroyed them because we were like, oh, a baseball field with no rocks.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, a
Right.
fence to hit. So when you hit it deep, it's actually a home run instead of people know, okay, here comes Thabiti. Move way, way back there, and it's just a pop fly out, you know? And so,
Yeah.
you know, so having, oh, they got a batting cage, you know, we're just throwing against a fence. So, I mean, it's all about also resources and knowing. That's why I know the smartest people in the smartest people that I've met in my life are a lot of my friends that who have not, who didn't make it to do what I'm doing. And people, oh, you're kind of smart. I'm like, you should meet. If you only could meet the people from my neighborhood, I can show you smart. You know, a lot of my friends were older in high school,
Yeah.
and I'm watching them just go to the military, and I'm seeing our high school bringing in as many military, you know, people in the military to talk to us as the colleges, and I'm like, as a kid, I'm like, what is this? I'm a vegetarian, but back then they would invite you to a steak dinner, and I was like, I'll go to the steak dinner, sure, you know, but I haven't had a steak before. This is great, but you know, I'm really bothered. I'm looking at that going, this angers me. And so a lot of my older friends, they just said, okay, they enlisted in the military because they felt that was they were convinced that somehow that was their best option, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so so I just think that shouldn't, you know, how can we make that not the case for more students? And we know the high schools in this area where there's that, you know, it's inequitable. The resources
Right.
at Camas I know are not the same as the resources at Fort Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
And so doesn't mean that the kids at Camas are smarter. It just means they got more resources.
Yeah.
They got more resources.
Yeah.
Some of them are smarter and some are not. And some of the kids at Fort Vancouver are smarter. It works both ways. And so when we come to these spaces, you just want to give yourself a minute to, you know, it's kind of helps level, but give yourself a minute to okay, I'm in the space, and also seeing, okay, this person's not that much smarter than me, or not
Yeah.
even. And then you got to get used to that, for all those things. So yeah, I would just say don't lose faith in yourself in these spaces. So this is why I love doing the admin as well as being a professor. It's an opportunity to impact people's lives and help. And because there have been so many people who have helped me.
Yeah.
I do not believe there is such a thing as a self-made woman or man. I'd love to meet that individual if they exist. I do not believe such an individual exists. We all are where we are because of other people who have helped us. And so I think it's important for me, as much as I can, to try and pay it back and forward.